Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajagacharya Ashtotarasati Shishyamadhabhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Mahārāja Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nithilila Pavishtom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajagacharya Ashtotarasati Shishyamadhabhai Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Prem se kho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Mukund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Navadip Mayapur Dham ki Jai Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Mai ki Jamna Mai ki Bhakti Devi ki Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Shri Radha Madhava Ashta Sakhi ki Shri Pancha Tattva ki Shri Nishinga Prahlad Maharaj ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tuto Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. This morning we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 32. Parīkṣid uvāca Aho adya vayaṁ brahman sat-sevyāḥ kṣatra-bandhavaḥ kṛpayātithi-rūpeṇa bhavadbhis tīrthakāḥ kṛtāḥ. Parīkṣid uvāca Aho adya vayaṁ brahman sat-sevyāḥ kṣatra-bandhavaḥ kṛpayātithi-rūpeṇa bhavadbhis tīrthakāḥ kṛtāḥ. Please chant. Vaishnavis, Parīkṣit uvāca. The fortunate Mahārāja Parīkṣit said, Aho, adya, today, vayaṁ, we, brahman, O brahmana, sat-sevyāḥ, eligible to serve the devotee, kṣatra, the ruling class, bandhava, friends, kṛpayā, by your mercy, atithi-rūpeṇa, in the manner of a guest, bhavadbhiḥ, by your good self, tīrthakāḥ, qualified for being places of pilgrimage, kṛtāḥ, done by you. Translation: the fortunate king Parīkṣit said, O Brahmana, by your mercy only you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage, all by your presence here as my guest. By your mercy we, who are but unworthy royalty, become eligible to serve the devotee. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Saintly devotees like Śukadeva Gosvāmī generally do not approach worldly enjoyers, especially those in royal orders. Mahārāja Pratāparudra was a follower of Lord Caitanya, but when he wanted to see the Lord refused to see him because he was a king. For a devotee who desires to go back to Godhead, two things are strictly prohibited: worldly enjoyers and women. Therefore, devotees of the standard of Śukadeva Gosvāmī are never interested in seeing kings. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was, of course, a different case. He was a great devotee, although a king, and therefore Śukadeva Gosvāmī came to see him in his last stage of life. Mahārāja Parīkṣit, out of his devotional humility, felt himself an unworthy descendant of his great Kshatriya forefathers, although he was as great as his predecessors. The unworthy sons of the royal orders are called kṣatra-bandhavas, as the unworthy sons of brahmanas are called dvija-bandhus or brahma-bandhus. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was greatly encouraged by the presence of Śukadeva Gosvāmī. He felt himself sanctified by the presence of the great saint, whose presence turns any place into a place of pilgrimage. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshadarane Nama Shishtam Manumati Sachiputra Matra Sarupam Rupam Tasyaga Jamuripurim Matarim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Patita Kṛpayā Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Nanda Adbhutashayam Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhum Nichopi Yat Prasadat Sad Bhakti Shastra Vavartaka Nityanandamaham Nomi Sarvanandakaram Param Harinam Padam Devam Avaduta Shiromanim Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannataya Te Namaha Om Tulasya Vrinmasi Sadat Vrindaye Tulsi Divyaya Priyaye Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Pradideli Satyavachai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatrupishta Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. So it's interesting to note that Mahārāja Pratāparudra was denied to see Lord Caitanya. Srila Prabhupada mentions this in the Purport. But this isn't the whole story. If we study the 11th chapter of Madhya Lila, we hear that Mahārāja Pratāparudra was actually embraced in the ultimate issue. He was embraced by Lord Caitanya. He received full mercy of Lord Caitanya. He massaged Lord Chaitanya's feet. So someone can ask, how is that? How did that happen? In the Purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions three things. First, his Dvija-bandhus. Second, Vaishnava Kripa. And third, his service to Lord Jagannath. So he was so determined, his Dvija-bandhus was so intense that he said, I'm willing to leave my body. I'll give up my life if I can't see Lord Caitanya. He said, I'll become a mendicant. I'll put an ivory earring in my ear. I'll become a mendicant and beg door to door. I'll give up my treasury. I'll give up the throne. I'll give up the palace. I'll give up my position as king if I can't see Lord Caitanya. So Srila Prabhupada comments that this was his Dvija-bandhus, his intense determination. And this is also qualified. Dvija-vrata isn't something you can pick off a tree. And you can type into Amazon.in and get some Dvija-vrata. Can you find it in the bazaar? Dvija-vrata. Dvija-vrata comes how? Yeshamantagatam papam jananam punya-karmanam te dvanda-moha nirmukta vajanti mam dvija-vrataha. There's qualification to have Dvija-vrata. The first thing, antagatam papam, to become free from the tendency for sinful life. If someone's distracted by sinful life, where is their determination? Determination goes out the window with sinful life. So first thing, become free from sinful life. Andagatam, bring an end to pap, to sinful life. Jananam punya karmanam, there should be some purva punya, there should be some previous life's activities of devotional service, some history of devotion. Why is that? We see we're distributing hundreds of thousands of books, millions of books, 260 million books. How many innumerable plates of prasadam? How many people have visited our temple? But where are they? Where are they? There's a qualification. We're building their punya. But only the most fortunate person comes to Krishna Bhakti. Manushanam sahasreshu kastid yatati siddhaye yatadam api siddhanam kastin mam biti tattvataha. If you take 1,000 persons, only one of them even asks relevant questions in life. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Is there God? Can I have a relationship with God? Why do I have to die? These are the relevant questions in life that most people never bother to ask. So only one person is a jnani amongst 1,000 ordinary dull-headed persons. And if you take 1,000 jnanis, only one becomes a Krishna. Do the math, 1 in a million. A devotee is 1 in a million. Someone who takes up the process of Krishna consciousness. So we're trying to build people's punya, their sukriti, so they can get a chance to come to Krishna consciousness. So they may develop some interest in Krishna bhakti. So it's not an ordinary thing. So, jananam punya karmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta. Next thing, third thing, become free from the dualities of life. Most people spend their whole life avoiding the dualities of life. Srila Prabhupada was sitting with devotees one time. He said, "Why is there a fan?" Devotees went, "Well, because it's hot, Srila Prabhupada." He said, "No, why is there a fan?" And devotees were confused. "Well, we don't, just because it's hot, Prabhupada." He said, "No, because the material world is a place of misery. It's a place of duality. We're always too hot, or we're too cold. We're hungry, or we have indigestion. We have too much money. We're trying to hold on to our money. We don't have enough money. We're not married, or we're married and happy." The world is full of dualities. So nirdvanda moha nirmukta, to become free from the dualities of material life, is a qualification to worship the Lord with Dvija-vrata. Bhajanti mam Dvija-vrataha. So Mahārāja Pratāparudra had this quality, completely determined that I will see Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu or I will leave my body. Do we have such determination? We should have. We should cultivate that, but we don't have. And it is a cultivation. Just like if you want to grow a mango tree, if you want mangoes, every mango has a seed. And if you take the seed and put it in the ground and you fence it off, you water it, you fertilize it, give it sun, it will begin to grow. A tree will grow. But will mangoes come? Have to wait. You have to be patient. You have to be patient and cultivate to get the mango. So we have to also cultivate our feeling, our desire, our intense desire to have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and be prepared to have that feeling that I'll give up anything. I'll give up my life if I can't get Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this was the first qualification Srila Prabhupada mentions, that qualified Mahārāja Pratāparudra, although he was a king, a worldly man by material estimation, how did he get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? First thing, Dvija-vrata. Second thing, and perhaps the most important thing, was that he got mercy of Vaishnavas. Because we get Krishna from devotees. We don't get Krishna from Krishna. Krishna doesn't give himself, his devotee gives him. Rahuganai tattapasanayati nachidchya nirvapanadgrihadva nachandasanaiva jalagritsoya vinamahatpada rajopishekam. Unless we get the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, there is no other way to get Krishna Bhakti. Krishna Bhakti is the property of the pure devotee. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed, Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite par, tomara shakatiyache. Amito kanga, Krishna Krishna bole, dai tava pache pache. He said, Krishna is yours, and he's your property. Krishna se tomar, and Krishna dite par, because he's yours, you have the power to give him to me. So what am I doing? I'm simply running out. I'm low-class beggar, useless person. So what am I doing to get mercy? I'm simply running after you, chanting Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Begging mercy, we're actually beggars. Not just in the sense that we're begging people, you come engage in the devotional service. You please give some donation. Please take our book. But we're begging Krishna for mercy from Krishna's devotee. To take the dust of the lotus feet of devotees. So someone may ask, what does that mean? What does it mean to take the dust of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada's gone from our material vision. How will we get his mercy? By following his instruction. Simple thing. Serving his mission. Living the life that he taught us to live. Living our life like he lived his life. Krishna-centric. No other interest in his life. Anyabhilashita sunyam jnana karmadhyanavid anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. Srila Prabhupada's prime example, sterling example of what is uttam bhakti. If you're ever confused in your life and you can't understand, what should I do? Should I do like this? Should I do like that? Look at Prabhupada's life. What would Prabhupada do in this circumstance? And you'll know exactly what to do. Because he had no other interest but Krishna. And Krishna was his property. Krishna becomes the property of his devotee. And this is the most extraordinary thing. That the infinitesimal jiva svakeshagra shatabhagasya shatada kalpitasya cha, the insignificant jiva, 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair, 2 angstroms, controls the infinite Lord, from whom millions of universes have come. Yakaranarnava jale bhajadismo yoga nidyamananta jagananda saroma kupa adara shaktim avalamdya param samurtim govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. A portion of Krishna. Millions of universes are coming from him, and he's controlled by the insignificant jiva. Is this not wonderful? That Krishna Setomar, Krishna becomes the property of his devotee. Nanda Maharaj has 9 lakhs of cows, and Krishna is responsible for all of them. This is inconceivable also. If someone thinks, well, Vrindavan is so big, and a cow occupies so much space, let's see if I multiply the dimension of how much space a cow takes, and multiply it by 900,000. How will they fit in Vrindavan? 9 lakhs of cows can fit in the head of a pin by Krishna's achintya shakti. But Krishna is in charge of all of them. He's serving his father. He becomes the servant of his devotee. Krishna's parthasarati. He becomes the servant of Arjuna. Arjuna should be serving Krishna, but Krishna is serving his devotee. Yashoda Maya was asked by Nanda Maharaj, what can your Krishna do? He's just what can he do? So she said, Krishna, you go get your father's shoes. So Krishna took Nanda Maharaj's shoes on his head and he's walking like this. Yes, Father, here are your shoes. He becomes loving servant of his devotees. He's the property of his devotee. So how do we get Krishna? Only by mercy of devotee. Because he's Bhakta Vatsal. He's not Karmi Vatsal, Yogi Vatsal, Jnani Vatsal, he's Bhakta Vatsal. The devotee is very, very dear to him. Vatsal means like a calf. At our project in Prabhupada village in North Carolina, one of the cows delivered a baby calf. It was like a big festival, first baby calf born there. All the devotees came, and we're giving garland to the baby calf and putting tilak on it. And the mother cow was on the other side of the fence. The baby calf was on this side of the fence, and a little dog, a little baby dog, this tiny little dog came. It's what's going on. He approached the calf, and because the mother cow sensed that my calf may be in danger, she practically broke through the fence to protect her calf. Vatsa. So Krishna is Bhakta Vatsal. Konteya pratijanihi nami bhakta pranashtiti. He has to declare it boldly, Arjuna, my devotee never perishes. Lord has so much affection for his devotee. So Krishna says, Tomar Krishna dete par, Tomara shakaryacha. You have the power to give him to me. So what do? We entreat the devotee. We beg the devotee. We are beggars for mercy. We beg the devotee for Krishna consciousness, for Krishna bhakti. And simply running as a beggar, chanting Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So Mahārāja Pratāparudra got mercy from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy because he served them. And Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma begged the Lord, do you please show mercy to Mahārāja Pratāparudra. And because of Vaishnava's entreaty, because of Vaishnava's mercy, Mahārāja Pratāparudra was able to approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ultimately massage his lotus feet and be embraced, directly embraced by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So third thing that qualified him, that Srila Prabhupada mentions in these series of purports, is that he served Lord Jagannath. He became, although he's the king, everyone's serving him, he took humble position to be sweeper in Rath Yatra and swept the road in front of Lord Jagannath's cart. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw this, he became attracted to him. So this is also the way in which we attract Lord's attention, by developing mood of humility. Even if you're a king, the whole nation is bowing down to you. But what is the king's business? To bow down to Jagannath. And because he served Jagannath, he qualified himself to get mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these three things, his determination, being ready to give up his own body, to get mercy from Vaishnavas, and to be humble before the Lord, to serve the Lord, to take up the process of bhakti, because Krishna says in Gita, only by bhakti, by ananya bhakti can I be known. Bhaktya tanannaya shakya aham vidam vidorjuna gyatum drashtum cha tattvena pravishtum cha parantapa. He says only by ananya bhakti, no other way. You can know me, gyatum. You can see me, eye to eye and face to face, drashtum, pravishtum cha parantapa. You come back to my abode. Not by jnana, not by yoga, not by karma certainly, only by ananya bhakti. So Mahārāja Pratāparudra took up this ananya bhakti, just to serve, to subordinate himself, to take up a humble position before the Lord, even though he has such a high position in society, to take humble position and serve the Lord. He attracted the attention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are the qualifications of devotee also. Because Krishna isn't known by our external life of devotion. Anybody can put on a dhoti, anyone can put on a sari, a tilak, a kantimala, cut your hair. Anybody can do that. This is the external manifestation of our bhakti. That's also good. Prabhupada encouraged us in this way to take up the external life of devotee. But our internal life, Krishna consciousness, is 99% internal. What is the quality of your heart? What are your qualifications? What are your qualities as a devotee? Because the dress does not make the devotee. The hairstyle does not make the devotee. Standing in Mangalarti does not make you a devotee. We go to Mangalarti because Srila Prabhupada asks us to. But are you in Mangalarti or are you somewhere else? Are you mindful? This is one thing we can learn from the Buddhists. They practice mindfulness, to be present. If they're eating and they're not talking on the phone, they're not talking to their friend, they're meditating on the food that's in front of them they're eating. And we should do the same. Srila Prabhupada, when he would take prasadam, taking prasadam was worship. Taking a morsel of Bhagavat prasadam, placing in his mouth, meditating that this food has come to me by the grace of God. With all our technology, with our satellites, our flat screen TVs, our mobile phones, our weapons of mass destruction. Well, all of that technology, we cannot create one grain of rice or one drop of milk. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. We're dependent living beings. So when we eat, this is meditation. That this rice has come from the earth. Sarva kama tu kamahi. All man's necessities come from the earth. So when we eat food or when we dress, I'm actually wearing earth. This is cotton. Where does it come from? From the earth. Where does the oxygen we breathe come from? From the trees that produce oxygen. They inhale carbon dioxide and they give oxygen. Our oxygen comes, so water comes from the earth, our food comes from the earth, our whole life is dependent on the earth. This is mindfulness. To be mindful when we're eating, mindful when we're standing in Mangalarti, and hear and remember what we're singing. Many times you ask devotees, what does it mean? When we say these prasadam prayers, Mahaprasadi Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnava, what does it mean? And they go, oh, it means we're going to eat. But they're not mindful, meditating that this is a special thing. This is not ordinary food. It's ordinary food to a person who's swalpa punya bhatam rajan, O king, someone who has no punya, no sukriti, no history of Krishna consciousness. It's just food. But for a devotee, taking prasadam is worship. So we should be mindful, develop the qualities of a devotee, because dressing as a devotee doesn't make us a devotee. We have to bring our consciousness to Krishna. And for that we have to be conscious first. What is our situation in this world? So in many places in Shastra we find lists of the qualifications of devotees. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord lists many qualifications of a devotee that make him dear. Qualifications that make the devotee dear to the Lord. He begins, Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evaja nirmamo nirahankara sarvadukha sukhashami santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nischaya mayarapita manobhada yome bhakta same priyaha. Who becomes dear to the Lord? Not because you're tilak straight, not because you have big shika and big kanti mala. He makes this list of what makes a devotee dear to him. And it begins with what? Adveshta sarva bhutanam. One who is not envious towards any living being. Not envious towards any living being, because this is the general characteristic of life in the material world. I'm envious of you, you're envious of me. And where does that come from? Because we're ultimately envious of Krishna. If we solve the envy problem in our relationship with Krishna, the envy problem towards every other living being is simultaneously solved. So one should become free from envy, because this is the meaning of devotee is what? Anasuyave. This Bhagavat Dharma, this life of devotion is for who? Anasuyave, who is not envious. And Srila Prabhupada translates Anasuyave as someone who can't tolerate the advancement of another person. If you see someone, oh, they become wealthy. Why am I not becoming wealthy? Why not me? If you see someone becoming happily married, why not me? Or someone happily renounced, why not me? They had a child, why didn't I get a child? Why didn't I get a position? Why not me, 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 I, me, mine? This is our whole problem in the material world. And if we learn to put Krishna in the center of our life and give up our envy towards Krishna and Krishna's position, simultaneously all our envy towards every other living being is solved. So Advaita Sarva Maitra Karuna Evacha. They become friendly. Karuna, merciful. Karuna, Srila Prabhupada also translates in the word for word as kindly. Because karuna also means kindly. To treat people with kindness is mercy. Sometimes people come to our temple and we are very happy to inform them of our rules and regulations and our diet. They walk through the door and practically speaking, the first words out of our mouth is, you know, we don't eat onions and garlic. And we follow these 4 regulator principles. I heard one devotee giving Sunday feast lecture. What is Sunday feast? At least half of the people there are brand new people. And they're sitting on Vyasa-san saying, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating. This is what it means to be a devotee. Does that sound attractive? It make you want to join ISKCON? And we don't worship Devis and Devatas also. Is Lord Shiva on your altar? Do you worship Ganesh? How do we approach people when they come to our temple? Hello, welcome, thank you for coming. What's your name? Where are you from? Srila Prabhupada oftentimes, in darshan with people, he wouldn't say a word about Krishna. He'd simply charm them. He'd make friends with them. Maitra, Karuna, Evacha. He'd say, where are you from? What about your family? You're in business? You're retired? He'd laugh, he'd joke with them, he'd charm them by his qualities. Sometimes he wouldn't even say a word from Bhagavad Gita. And these are the people that became huge donors and ultimately became devotees. So how do we make devotees? Maitra Karuna Evacha. Make friends. Treat people with respect. We spend, Prabhupada would say, gallons of blood to get people to come to our temple. We're out canvassing every day on Harinam, on book distribution, on the internet, to get people to come to our temple, and then we jump on them about their bad habits. If they don't come to our temple, how will they become free from bad habits? How will they become better? Our principle is let the whole world come. Even you're eating meat, come. You have a girlfriend, no problem, come. Because if you don't associate with devotees, how will you become better? There's no hope without the association of devotees. To become better, to give up bad habits. For 1 year, Srila Prabhupada never even mentioned 4 regulative principles. He said, just come, chant Hare Krishna, and take prasadam. And the whole ISKCON, 850 temples and 260 million books and restaurants and farm communities, all of that came from Prabhupada's carefully introducing Krishna consciousness to the public. Thoughtfully, with friendship, karuna, maitra, with mercy, with friendship. This is our principle, how to spread Krishna consciousness. If someone's inimical, they want to argue, we have many arguments. If someone is a demon, show them the door. Don't waste time. If someone doesn't want to hear, don't waste time. Because there's many people that do want to hear. And more people are taking an interest. There's a progression, there's an evolution of Krishna consciousness that's happening in the world by the will of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And many people will be coming to our doorstep. So how will we treat them? Karuna, maitra karuna evacha. Next thing mentioned, nirmamo nirahankar. Nirmama means nothing is mine. This is our Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, this is our main malady, our main disease. We think everything in this world is mine. My home, my car, my wife, my bank balance, I, me, mine, my everything. But what in reality, what is ours? Nothing. Our own body is not ours because it can be taken away at any moment. If it is ours, we should be able to take care of it. We should be able to hold on to it. But we cannot. And it's madness to think otherwise. If a man walks into a bank and he gets up in a chair and says, I renounce all the money in the bank. Everything in the safe, you can have it. Everything in the cash drawer, it's yours. In your wallet, you can keep your wallet, you can keep your watch, you can keep your wedding ring too. I renounce everything, it's all yours. He's a madman because nothing is ours to renounce. Anasaktasya vishayan yataramu upayanja nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchate. What is the principle of renunciation? What does it mean? Nothing is mine. It means to use everything in Krishna's service. And Srila Prabhupada showed the sterling example of this. Well, other sannyasis wouldn't even put on shoes and would hesitate to ride a bicycle. Srila Prabhupada was traveling around the world in jet airplanes and cars and trains. Why? To teach Krishna consciousness. He'd accept anything in the service of the Lord, to promote the service of the Lord. This is renunciation. So the man in the bank who says everything is yours, he's a fool. Get out of here. They'll throw him out because nothing is his. How can you renounce something that doesn't belong to you? And if you walk into the bank with a gun and say, give me the money, they'll lock you in jail for a very long time. It's not ours to take, and it's not ours to renounce. What is the proper use of everything in this material world? Is to use it for Krishna, because it's His. Bhumir apanalo vayu kammano buddhireva cha ahankara itiyame binna prakritir ashtara. Every atom, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intellect, ego, every atom of the creation is the property of the Lord. It's His binna prakriti. It's His. But we think, it is mine. So nirmama, we have to give up this misunderstanding that we can actually own anything. Whatever we own is meant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Nirahankara. Ahankara means, I am this body. And this is pure insanity. As we're sitting here, our heart is beating, food is moving through our intestine, blood is being distributed, nerves are working, muscles are working, synapses are going off in our brain. Thousands of complex chemical reactions are going on in our body, and we think that's me. Brain is there, heart is there, lungs, spleen, liver, intestines, kidneys, bladder. What part of that is you? Are you a heart? A kneecap? What part of this contraption is you? This simple thing, we're actually the greatest revolutionaries, because Bhagavad Gita philosophy is revolutionary. What is that? Dehi nosmin yata dehe komaram jovanam jara tatati hantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. Asmin dehe, we're the soul carried within this vehicle. Yantarudhani mayaya, we're simply carried by this body. We're different from the body. And this is a completely revolutionary idea in human society that is hell-bent to try and satisfy the mind and senses of their body. This philosophy is meant tadvag visargo janataga viplava, to create revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. And this is the principle, the basic principle, the simplest thing, but most profound thing. You're not your body. But for millions of lifetimes, we're thinking, yes, I am, and I'll be happy on account of it. But that so-called happiness is the cause of our distress. Yehi sansvarsa jaboga dukkha yonaya evite ajantavanta kontaya nateshu ramate Buddha. We're thinking sense gratification, pleasing my body will make me very happy. Krishna says, dukkha yonaya evite. It is the cause of your distress. Exact opposite. Ajantavanta kontaya nateshu ramate Buddha. Intelligent person doesn't take pleasure in his body because he knows that happiness, whatever happiness your body can give you, is temporary. It's like if you start thinking, Jayato vishayan pungsa sangaste shubhajayate. I want to eat pizza. Big round pizza with lots of cheese and vegetables, hot out of the oven, hot off the altar, offered to Gaura-Nitai, Radha Krishna. And when you eat that first piece, you're saying, oh, my mouth has gone to heaven. I'm doing abhishek for my tongue. And I'll have another. And you eat another piece of pizza. And you're still not satisfied. You eat another and maybe another, and your stomach is full and you can't eat anymore. They say the tongue is like a prostitute, never satisfied. But belly is like a sadhu. No more, done. When you're through eating and you can't eat anymore, what is the meaning of eating pizza? What's left of the experience? Just a memory? Ajantavanta konteya, O konteya, this type of happiness has its beginning and its end. And every single material, sense gratificatory experience is exactly the same. Has its beginning and has its end. Nateshu ramate Buddha, an intelligent person doesn't take pleasure there. And the sources of misery, dukkha yonaya evate, that are due to identification, misidentification with this gross body, this collection of blood and fat and skin and hair and bones and muscles and nerves. This is revolutionary idea. So nirahankara, samasuka sukha shami, samadukha sukha shami, next qualification, that pleases Krishna, that endears the devotee to Krishna, that he's equal in happiness and distress. Equal in happiness and distress. Mostly people spend their whole life trying to avoid unhappiness. But mostly they're trying to avoid unhappiness makes them more unhappy. And this in a nutshell is the whole advertising industry, especially in the West. If you just buy this car, you'll become very happy. So people go into debt, they buy the car. And how do they advertise? There has to be some beautiful woman exploiting the form of woman. She has her arm on the car. She's a beautiful young thing. Do they ever advertise with an overweight, elderly lady with gray hair missing some teeth? It's always some beautiful girl. Even Britannia crackers. What does a beautiful girl have to do with Britannia crackers? But there's some beautiful girl. Eat our cookies. Exploit the form of woman. Wherever you look, you see the same thing. Advertising industry is exploiting the form of woman. To make people think you really need this. If you buy this thing, if you spend your money, your hard-earned money, then you will become happy. But what is the result? What is the invariable result? They become distressed. Because dukkha yonaya evate. But someone who's equal in happiness and distress, who tolerates happiness and distress, knowing matra sparshas kontaya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nittas tam satikshasya bharata. That you can't avoid happiness and distress. This is the world of duality. Dvandva mohena bharata. It's a world of duality. It's the world we live in. You can't change it any more than you can change the seasons. If it's too hot outside, can you shout at the sun? Too hot, bring down the temperature. And in the wintertime, can you say, more sun, please, I'm cold. Can you change it? It's a world of duality. We're stuck in this world of duality. We're obliged. So what is the solution? Tam satikshasya bharata. Tolerate. Tolerate that which you can't change. Be happy, be equal. Samadukha sukha shami. And sukh and dukh Be equal. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur took it even a higher step. He said, what is my highest happiness? He said, my highest happiness is to be distressed in such a way that is pleasing to the Lord. So sometimes our distress can be pleasing to the Lord also. And we accept that happily. Because these are all this is monodharma. Bhadra and abhadra is all monodharma, all mental conception of life. Has no real meaning, has no bearing, no significance to our identity as eternal spirit soul. So unless we identify ourselves in that way, what is the meaning? How are we able to tolerate happiness and distress? Samudukha sukha-shrami. Santushta satatam yogi. Next principle. Always be satisfied. Because satisfaction is the art of life. Kamaropena konteya dushparena analena cha. Lust, Krishna says, burns like fire. The unsatisfied desires of our heart burn like fire. And you can't extinguish them by supplying more fuel. Krishna's example is very nice. A fire, unattended, can burn an entire city. The great fire of Chicago in the early 1900s. Half the city burned down from one kerosene lamp. Someone was milking their cow, and the cow was having a bad day, knocked over the lantern, caught the straw on fire. Straw caught the barn on fire. Barn caught the neighborhood on fire. Neighborhood caught the whole city on fire. Half of the city of Chicago burned down from one single flame. So Krishna's example is very nice. If the flame is left alone, what will happen in due course of time? It will extinguish itself. So Krishna says, lust burns like fire and is never satisfied. You can't satisfy lust by supplying the objects of sense gratification. So Krishna is saying, be happy. Sukha-shrami, be yogi. Santushta satatam yogi. Yatatma dviranashchaya. Be determined, be self-satisfied. There's a whole list, and we're running out of time. But these are the principles of becoming dear to the Lord. Because dear to the Lord isn't an external manifestation. And there's many nice stories about this. Mukunda approached Gadadhar Pandit and said, I want to introduce you to a very great Siddha Purush, Mahatma, pure devotee. Gadadhar Pandit said, let's go. I want to meet this great devotee. So they came to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was lying on a silken couch. He's being fanned. They're popping grapes in his mouth. Silken perfumed hair, pugri, silken pugri with jewels and pearls and bangles on his arms and rings on his fingers, golden spittoon, chewing pan. Gadadhar Pandit said, this? Siddha Purush? This is Mahabhagavat? No. This is Vishya, he's a very materialistic person. Mukunda said, no, you watch. So he began to sing. Mukunda was famous for his singing voice. So he began to sing verses from Bhagavatam. And when it came to this verse, who can be more merciful than Krishna, who gave the position of a mother to the she-demon, Putana? Who can be more merciful than Krishna? Pundarik Vidyanidhi went mad. He fell off the couch, was rolling on the floor, tearing his clothes, throwing his turban, shouting, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Gadadhar Pandit was like, whoa, who is this person? I've made great aparad. Why? Because he made external judgment. He couldn't appreciate who is a devotee? Just temple devotee? Maybe the pure devotee, the next acharya, is out working somewhere, taking care of his family, working some job. Who's to say? Don't judge devotee by his external characteristic. So Gadadhar Pandit thought, I've made great offense. Let me take initiation. He begged for diksha. from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And this is appropriate. Why? Who is Pundarik Vidyanidhi? Vishabhanu Maharaj. Who is Gadadhar Pandit? Srimati Radhika. So it's beautiful Leela. And then also same thing, when Mahaprabhu was staying at Chandrasekhar's house, he said, Chandrasekhar, there's a great devotee sitting on the porch. You please invite him to come in. So he went and he looked. He says, oh, I didn't see any devotee. There's no devotee there. Why couldn't he see? Because he's eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he's playing the role of Kanishta Adhikari. Who was sitting in the porch? Sanatana Goswami. But he took one look and said, oh, some Muslim mendicant, some Muslim mendicant is on your porch only. I didn't see any devotee. So be careful to judge devotee. And develop these qualities in yourself that attract the Lord. And in that way become yourself tīrthakāḥ. Mahārāja Yudhishthira said about Vidura, tīrthāni kurvanti svantastena gadaprita. That Vidura made wherever he was a place of pilgrimage. He is himself a place of pilgrimage. And Śukadeva Gosvāmī, as we read in the end of this purport, by his character was a place of pilgrimage. So as members of ISKCON, we should aspire to be that devotee that is a place of pilgrimage, that people come to for knowledge, that people come to for shelter. Because who else is going to do it? Who else will do it? Some primitive Abrahamic religions? They have no understanding of the personality of Godhead. What can they do in the ultimate issue? Maybe they can go to heaven. Who else will take this responsibility? That is our responsibility, to develop the qualifications as devotee, the internal qualities of a devotee. To be like Vidura, to be like Mahārāja Pratāparudra, to be like all our acharyas. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is still going, and Chaitanya Charitamrita doesn't end with Antya-lila. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita, what's happening in the world today. The spreading of Krishna consciousness all over the planet. And who is going to do it? We have to do it by developing the qualities of a devotee. Some of the things that we talked about today. So we're running out of time. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.